Okay, I have a little exercise for you. I want you to think. You don't have to share this. Just think yourself. Who are 5 significant men in your life? Living or deceased? Just think of 5. I'm not going to share this. Okay, got them? Just put that at hold, okay? As we said at the beginning, we are recognizing the 50th anniversary of the first walk on the moon. And as you remember, Neil Armstrong, when he made that first step, he said, one small step for man. Although after that he said, no, I meant to say, one small step for a man. But that's not how we remember it. But indeed, he goes on to say, if you can join me, one giant leap for mankind. Well, if he were to say that today, he probably would not use the word mankind. We just don't use that anymore. He'd say humankind. Just because language evolves. Back then when we used the word man or mankind, we meant everybody. But now it doesn't anymore. Let me prove it to you. When you thought of your 5 men, you probably didn't think of any females. Because the word man now means males. Language evolves. Indeed, our thoughts are encouraged to involve with it. Now, I remember where I was when the moon landing happened. I was at Boy Scout camp, Parker Scout Reservation, just north of Brainerd. And what they did is they wheeled out a TV set in this field, and they had the antennas and a long cord. So here are like about 200 Boy Scouts gathered around this little TV set. Of course, we're all cheering, and oh, this is great, this is great. I don't think I really understood the magnitude of what that meant for a person to walk on the moon. And I certainly did not understand the risks involved. Just thought it was always easy, really safe. Not knowing about the men who died in the Apollo 1 aircraft or spacecraft. Or indeed, as we found out later, how Neil Armstrong, he had to manually land the craft because it was blown way off course. And so to get it right, he had only 20 seconds of fuel left, and he managed manually to put it down. Huge risk of life. Now, taking a risk is something that most of us are not comfortable with. We like to play it safe. We're going to do everything that people expect of us. Even like at the beginning of Mass, when we have you introduce yourselves. I know some of you have a hard time with that, so I want to applaud you that don't like it. To take the risk to introduce yourselves and talk. We do that, and we don't do it all the time, as you know, but we do it because we want to open ourselves up. That we're not here just individually with God, but it's as a community, as humankind. We have a bigger tribe, and we're here to celebrate. But still, taking a risk is often hard. Saying the right thing or doing the right thing. It could be as simple as, just saying hello to someone. You know, you're at a store and you always wait for them to come to you. Well, you go talk to them. Now, I'm not talking about taking, goofy risks like texting while you drive. Or diving into a river without checking out what's below. But just the risks of just life. Like maybe the risks of staying after an event to help clean up. Not assuming that somebody else does it. Well, in a strange way, the gospel we heard is also about risk-taking. Because at the time, women were expected just to stay in the kitchen, get everything cleaned up, or prepare the food, do all that stuff. And the men would be the ones sitting and chatting. So Mary in the gospel, she's taking a risk. She's not doing what's expected of her. She's not doing what everyone says, well, women are not seeing, they're overcooking. That's why Martha gets so mad, because she's supposed to be doing what I'm doing. Mary's sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening to him, presumably with the other men gathered there. And then she gets praised for it, saying this is the better way. Well, for a lot of us, I think it's when we nudge ourselves and do what is not expected of us. Not to fit into the norm, to say it's always been done this way. For some of you, it's simple things like, sit somewhere different at church, or order something different on the menu, or do something crazy like in the summer, go run in the sprinkler, or go skip rocks in the lake. Have some fun. But even more emotionally, it could be risk-taking for you, such as think of that person you haven't talked to in a while, and perhaps you go make the contact. Or maybe there's someone you need to say, I am sorry to. Because there's been a falling out, or you just haven't connected. Or maybe there's somebody in your life that has not heard from you, I love you. You haven't heard in a while. Maybe it's you go say that, or call them, tell them. It's not making them, well, they got to do it first. No, it's you taking the risk to say, I want to repair this relationship, or I want to connect again. But I got another kind of risk I want you to think about. I can imagine that if the gospel were written today, it might go something like this. Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and concerned about so many things. Put your phone down. Mary has chosen the better way, just as says. For some of us, not being connected to our phone all the time would be a big risk. Somehow we think we always have to be in communication, or we always have to find out what's going on, or we always have to be plugged in. So I have a challenge for you this week. Don't use your phone right away. You can use your phone. But when you're in that situation where you're kind of bored, you're waiting in line, for many of us, what we do is we get the phone going right away. Well, I say don't. Instead, look around. If you're like in a store, people will watch. Or if you're outside, look around at God's creation. Or for some of you who look at your phone first thing when you wake up in the morning, you got to check social media, what's going on. Don't. You can look at it eventually, but perhaps first thing is just to talk to God. Even just to say thank you, God, for the blessings of the day. Perhaps when you're outside, and this is always a challenge as opposed to needing the phone, but look around. Recognize all that is budding and growing around you. Watch the bird fly. In a sense, it's be like Mary, just to sit in the presence of God, as opposed to needing to be sit in the presence of being connected. Perhaps it might be lingering at church a little bit longer in front of the tabernacle, or coming early. Perhaps it's, taking some more quiet time at home, just you, but perhaps it's being outside. Thanking God for all that we have, noticing nature. For a lot of us, we think we're so important, or we think we have to do this, or we think we've got to stay in tune, or the world's going to fall apart. Well, maybe it's time you take a risk. And trust that God's got this. You don't have to be so much in control or be connected. So your challenge, maybe take one small step and then be surprised what God has